All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the October 16th, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. In attendance are myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Betsy Odgers. Online is Supervisor Don Dowling, and Jim Johnson is not yet in attendance. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli. Has Stan joined us? I don't think so. Stan is not here. Jeff Eastburn, Township Manager. I don't believe Melissa is here. And Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. And there are 7 members of the public. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
under God,
liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So with that, I would like to open the floor to public comment. This public comment section may include comments relating to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer of the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment? Okay, not hearing any, we can move on to approval of minutes.
Great. I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the September 18, 2024 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Do I have a second for that? Hi, Betsy, thanks. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Well, any opposed, say nay. A motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
So Jim's not here, so I can take the treasurer's report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township financials for the month of September 2024 and year to date. The September 2024 treasurer's report includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $285,504.93. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $9,765.90. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,350.16. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $66,960.59. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,650,138.64. So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the treasurer's report as presented by myself. May I have a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Donna.
I'm here, Dave. So good job.
Thank you very much. I barely made it through.
Yeah, good job.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, Betsy.
Zoning Officer's Report. This was compiled by the Township Zoning Officer, Mark Gordon. In the month of September 2024, there were 13 permits issued, $3,600 in permit fees, 0 in miscellaneous fees, 0 in recreations and open space fees, 0 on impact fees were collected, and 20 inspections were performed.
Oh, Jim.
Good evening, Matt Curtis here, the treasurer for the FSA, here to provide the monthly report for October for the Franklin Sportsman Association. Starting off with the membership remains status quo. Membership is full with 35, and we had 6 new members this year. The hunting seasons are the same information as last time, no changes there. All the parcels are marked, for the seasons. I did want to mention that the Banffshire, the crossover trail will be closed, like it was last year, from 11/1 through 12/15, basically 6 weeks. Harvest report. There's been no deer harvest at the moment. With the temperatures increasing, more activity, we do expect the yield to increase in coming weeks. Community service, the total hours so far is 110.5. That does not include the 2 recent projects. That last week was the paper shredding event here at the Township Building, also the pro, and some members of the FSA did some trail cleanups on Banffshire. Other than that, there were no other updates. The next report will have all the inclusive hours of the 2 that I just mentioned in that November report. Okay, any questions? Thank you.
Right, so then what are we on to? Parks Rec and Open Space Report.
Okay, so we have our update from the October 2nd meeting. Dawn Dowling, our lovely supervisor, was not there, so we do not have an update on the meadow. The backpacks, though, we do have an update that the library has all the maps of one of the parks and then the 3 other preserves. Is Paul on the call? I don't know. Okay. All right. So one thing we want to bring up is the kiosk at Banffshire. Do you have a picture of that?
You got a text message from Paul. He's trying to bring up the kiosk. I think the 3 of us saw the photo. He's working good. There it is.
Okay. So this will be in the parking lot on, what is that, Chesterville? Yeah, Chesterville. It will not be where the current, well, I guess it's not there anymore, is it? Do you either of you know much about this?
So.
Because
what
Paul was
wants to
supposed to
do-
be here.
okay, so really, this is gonna be the basic structure. And I think in terms of where it's gonna be, it's not gonna be in the same spot
Mhm.
as where the original kiosk was. And the reason for that is he wants it oriented so it's facing north. So when you look at the map is facing where you're facing.
Mhm.
Which is facing the road. Is that what it was? Yeah, so that's.
Other way, that's south.
So it's gonna face backwards?
I mean, you'll I'm thinking you're facing the road.
You're on the road.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're standing at the road.
Yes, yes.
So, and then that's gonna be where the kiosk is.
Mhm.
What park is this for?
Banner. Yeah, it's just replacing the old
Mhm.
kiosk.
Yep, and it's all donated by Paul Overton, Time and Supplies.
I think most of it's constructed, it's been sitting in this barn.
Mhm.
The original plan was we were gonna put it up, well, right when the bridge was. Then it just got,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, my mic's not on. And then it got postponed and then I think we all forgot about it. So I think that's the thing.
I just want, just a comment, because I was one of the folks from the last meeting that just wanted to have it brought back again.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to explain to you my thinking. Great idea, right? Something that we talked about a while ago. But I think when if a project is agreed with the board at a certain year
Mhm.
and we don't get it done that year, it's just helpful to just remind us the following year before any more work is done on it, because there could be new board members. And so I think it was just in my mind, it was an opportunity to make sure Betsy and Dawn were aware of the project before we just say, yes, it's a
Jim,
good.
too, I think you're the.
Yeah, Jim would be, yeah. So it's just I think some things just take a while, right? And I think it's just reintroduce it. And
Yeah.
then I think everybody's on the same page.
Okay.
Right. So thanks.
May I ask a question to Jim, actually? Is that design okay for the hunting, what they need for hunters? Yeah, okay. I don't know how to go about like actually asking. Oh, okay.
You need approval to do it.
Yeah,
I think you. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to say anything about this, Paul? Anything more?
We're talking.
We're talking about the kiosk. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I didn't know it was like first on.
Well, we didn't have, there isn't much to do, so we're.
So the kiosk is similar to the one the Boy Scout put up, at Crossing.
Well, I wanted to repeat what I said to Mary when she came here, because I was the one who asked for this to come back to the board. I just want to explain why I did that. It's just that because it took a while, like I remember it was back to when you were building the bridge, and even took a while to do the bridge because it was just so many different issues that had to be dealt with. That all I would ask is that if we have a project, we talk, we discuss it with the board, and it doesn't seem to get done within that year or within a 12-month period, just reintroduce it to the board when you're ready to pick it up again, because there will be new members that hadn't heard about it before, and it just brings everybody together. Okay, it wasn't an attempt to say no, but it was just to reintroduce so we're all on the same page. Okay, thanks.
I have a question too. Talking about Crossing Park, the bottom parking lot, the Boy Scout project there. I know that the new bike kiosk, I'll call it, with the regular shingle on it, looks much better than the one with the, I guess, the cedar shingles, and it looks like water is already damaging the plywood on the roof. Are we gonna maybe go ahead, Jeff? It's great.
I've been in contact with Ryan and Liam,
Okay.
so they are going to replace that roof with shingles,
Yeah.
just like on the bike rack. I was asked to buy some drip edge, so I did do that. It is here. Ryan does know about it. So I did talk to him today. They're hoping in the next couple weeks or so, they'll be able to get it done. He said right now they're busy with ice hockey.
Fine.
But
That
he
sounds good.
understands.
It'll last a lot longer.
Oh, no, he's well on his way.
Leftover shingles from the bike repair thing, right? Did you just say that?
Yes.
Okay, I was daydreaming.
Yeah, make sure they put tar paper on it too. There was none on there under the cedar shake, so.
They didn't have a cap or drip edge.
Or cap, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving on, we are going to be talking more about farmland signs, which is, it's fun. It's just going to be small and simple. And obviously, we're going to have to get everyone's permission, landowners, everyone. But it's just a little sign that's saying, hey, Franklin Township or whomever preserves this land, and it's going to be preserved in perpetuity.
Do we have examples in the?
You just need to give us the wording.
Yeah. What do we have?
I didn't see anything.
Okay, no, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
So,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
not there
I
yet.
think we talked about it at the meeting, we'll come up with 2, 3
Mhm.
examples, you know, and then.
There was some show a few months ago too, right?
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, then the picnic table that we had originally asked for Bamshire, we no longer need. Paul was able to fix the existing one, so we should be good for a little while. So the You Are Here map is all done. We are going to be looking to post a hard copy, like a literal, hard copy somewhere. And then I believe that's about
Wait,
it.
just so aren't they gonna be with the kiosks, or we're gonna put those, the here maps are gonna go on some of the
We-
kiosks, right?
Yeah, we're looking into making, you know how, I don't know what park would be around here. So there's an actual fiberglass, I don't know if that's the right fabric, yeah. And so it's like a hard, tilted surface. There you go. Yeah. And we want it to be like a tilted, yeah. That also is just in the works. So we're just letting you know. All right. Any questions?
one of the things that we were talking about is maybe you and I can spend some time going through where all of our maps are and figuring out how we can move them into one location that's just Franklin Township park maps. I think we have them like parks that we own, parks that we don't own, and they're all in different locations. So we
Yes.
we did it back when we were just figuring it out. So we could.
And then, if you can kind of give me a heads up what you think you're looking for, I'll do the research and then we can do it together.
Yeah, we just want a one page where maybe even one of our buttons is just town park maps, and then it just goes to everything that we have, something. But we'll work on it together. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Board, I'm next.
Okay. I guess we're done.
Yep, Historical Commission, Historical Review Board report by Paul Slakowski, who's here.
So thank you. Although we did not meet in the month of October, I just wanted to bring attention to the board and the public that the Historical Commission is sponsoring a talk on November 12th at 7 p.m. on the covered bridges in the Avon Grove area. The talk is being given by Sarah Beth Kohat. She has written a book entitled Crossing Undercover about the covered bridges of Chester County and surrounding regions, and she is a member of our Historical Commission. The talk will be held at the New London Township Building, and this is one of the talks that we co-sponsor with the New London Area Historical Society. Any questions? November 10th. 12. 7.
Sorry.
It will be posted on the Facebook page.
Dave, do you want me to go next? Or-
Sure. Let's oh, that was it.
That's
It. That's us. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
So now my big part. So I just I'm here to say that there's no report for the Friends of the Healing Garden. So we're not going to do an update for that. And there's no new updates for the Big Elk Creek Advisory Board. So we can move on to business, Dave.
All right. Actually, Jim's here.
Yeah. So I think Jeff's gonna, I'm here to talk about the 24-25 township snowplow.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, I'd be happy to. As per usual, this time of year, we did put out a bid for winter maintenance for the roads. We did get a bidder. It was advertised in the daily local paper twice and on our Facebook page. So we do have a bid from Yardworks Incorporated. There are 2 to 3 items, I think I put in my memo to you, that have a 2% to a 4% raise. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have and would recommend that you approve this bid, please. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we should commend Yardworks for and Jim Durazio for is, over the past at least 5 years that I've been on this board, his prices have remained pretty consistent, right? Even through inflation and the fuel costs, we've always been pretty fair prices here. So I'm more than happy to continue having him do this work.
Yeah. I guess I could read a proposed motion then. I make a motion to the board to award the 2024-2025 township snow plowing and road de-icing contract to Yardworks at the unit prices presented by Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, requiring Yardworks to submit their performance bond and insurance certificates to remain in compliance. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Dave, thank you. Any other discussion? Board? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any motion carries forward to,
Dawn, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
You can,
I didn't know she was on.
I'm fine. I'm good. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Don. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Alright. Okay, so the next topic is the Crossing Park infrastructure discussion with Jeff. Just as kind of a point of for the residents, we are now entering in our budget planning process for 2025. So the next few months, November and December, we're really going to go through and take a look at our budget, see where the money is going, what money's left over from after we spend it all on MS4. And then that's a months long process, and then it gets approved in, is it January or December? Or I think it's December where we approve the final budget. So, and this is the first part of that, is just to have Jeff. There's no motions involved. Jeff's going to kind of run through some of his observations are at Crossan Park, and items that need to have that we might need to inspect. So, I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Okay, in the memo, in the memo that I created for the board for 2025, I would like to propose that we reinstate the weed and feed program for the athletic fields. 2024, we did skip that because of MS4 costs. The other one is to do some repairs on the pickleball court, the tennis court, asphalt repairs, and the asphalt repairs would have to do with the middle parking lot, as well as some of the existing asphalt trails that we have coming apart due to age. And one section, we have Mother Nature trying to take over again after 23, 24 years. The last two items would be to install tot lot mulch on the tot lot for safety reasons, as well as 2 to 3 dump truck loads of Dynatex between both baseball fields. So,
Yeah, I just want to comment. So, I know, everyone knows how Jeff does his stuff. We have tons of pictures of the pickleball court and the tennis court that, he can make available if folks are interested, but it's starting to be a safety hazard in terms of the cracked concrete, and uneven surface. So that's why we're considering that right now. And I know, Jeff, once I'm quiet for a few minutes, you can talk about your long range plan. There's probably more work that needs to be done, more intense work, but for right now, this could possibly be enough to get us through from a maintenance perspective. I mean, I think all of us are proud of the Crossan Park and the great work that the pro's done, the FSA's done, and our friends who work on the trails, Matt and Noah and all the whole crew. And I think it's just in order to keep that up, there's maintenance work that needs to be done, and that's a lot of what this is about. It's not new projects; it's more about maintaining what we currently have. And just one more comment, and I'll stop. For the tot lot, it's amazing how expensive mulch can be, but if we work together and have the FSA, the pro, Franklin Township board members, and just residents, we can maybe have it as a project that we install it ourselves. So buy the mulch, and we could save a couple $1,000s if we do that. So something to consider when that time comes. But we can't take a chance that the kids fall and don't have a good set of mulch there to cushion that fall. So that's what that's about. So I'll turn it back to you. I just want to, if there is a need for this, this is not nice to have.
oh, no. And just.
And I would like,
Oops.
I'm sorry, I want to second Donna on that. This is Dawn. I want to second Donna on that because it's so important for the Parks and Recreation to take care of Parks and Recreation. And I think the tot lot and the pickleball court and this courts are so important to our residents that I just think anything we can do to keep them as nice as they are or make them better is so important.
Just to,
So I have a couple of questions as I kind of go through these things, and I'm glad I'm not too I don't use the soccer fields, but I've been on the baseball diamonds a lot, and I noticed that this year they were in pretty rough shape in spring with weeds and that. So I'm glad that it's going to get some attention. I think it definitely needs that. But my two questions are around the pickleball court and the tennis court repairs. Both of those have been recently repaired. The pickleball court first, those are brand new. I mean, the pickleball courts we just put in, I mean, didn't we just put in those additional two courts?
Can I comment? We just painted the line. We didn't do anything with the concrete.
So we just moved the pickleball, we put two additional courts in, but we didn't do anything with the concrete slab.
There was some patching done when we reoriented the nets,
Okay,
but just weather,
okay.
it needs some touch up there.
So that's not a surprise. This was
No.
something, okay. And then the next one is the tennis court repairs. I thought we just redid those. And now we got another almost $16,000 we got to spend on it.
About every 3 or 4 years, you start to see cracking appear in tennis courts. It's just something that happens with ours.
Mhm.
I had 2 contractors come out. They were shocked in a good way how old the courts were and what good shape they are in, and about us being commended for taking care of them.
Okay.
But we have some cracking that has occurred. We do have some low areas.
Yeah.
So these repairs would be to pressure wash the tennis court, crack seal the playing area,
Mhm.
and then touch up paint.
Okay.
That would buy us another 3 or 4 years. After that, maybe 5. And then we can do some major repairs to the tennis court. One would be the center seam. I
Yes.
know we worked on that. Ron and I have met. I think we have a good plan down the road for that. I don't think it's something we need to do right now, but it's just a matter of keeping up with this stuff and not having the water get down and freeze and make the cracks bigger. And
If we're gonna do, I mean, again, this is all part of a budget discussion,
Sure.
right? So we'll get into the details later.
Sure.
But would it make more sense to get it all, is it cheaper to get it all done at once? Right, if we're gonna go in there and do repairs, it's kind of like you're gonna get everybody out there. You gotta pay to get them out there and do the repairs, and then we're gonna have them come out again and do the center seam. Does it make sense to just do it all at once?
We don't have the money. I mean,
We probably don't. I just want to know if it makes more sense to try and get it all done at once versus piecemeal.
I can only give you my thoughts on it. I think if we redo everything like we should redo everything,
Yeah.
you're probably talking about $43,000.
We don't have that money. Okay. And then another question is on the athletic fields and the Diamond Techs installation. So a lot of our leagues use those fields. Is there any way that they provide us with any can they subsidize some of this cost, or do they?
Well, to sign a contract with us, they do submit $1,000 check each league for
Mhm.
each year. So
Okay.
that's how it gets subsidized
Okay.
by them.
Fair enough. Okay.
Do you want me to go on to the subsequent years, or do you want to just?
Well, please go. Continue on for sure.
The other large projects potential for future years would be in 2026 to start replacing the aging security system. The gazebo lower roof, that's 23 years old.
Mhm.
Redecking one of the Boy Scout bridges. And then I'm hoping if we can do the asphalt repairs next year, that we could actually seal coat the rest of the park and paint the stalls through the other parking lots.
And that bridge you're talking about is the one that we may get that grant to
Possibly.
replace.
Hoping for.
Mhm.
2027 would be the large gazebo by the tot lot, the main building roof. They're over 25 years old each. Another step towards replacing some of the aging security system, redecking another Boy Scout bridge. And then 2028, if we would like to color code the pickleball court, there are 2 ways to do that. One was suggested by acid etching the concrete our engineer and one of the contractors advised against that. They felt cracking would appear a 90% chance by the following year. Excuse me, please. And what we're talking about is actually taking part of that fence down, putting petromat down, and then paving on top of the concrete pad. And that would probably be like a tennis court after that. We could pave it, put the color coating on. It would play like the tennis court does. And would probably give us 4 or 5 years before we have to start dealing with cracks again. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
All right. So I think right now, I think I'd be most focused on 2025. I don't know if I have any other questions in terms of why we need to repair them.
Yeah, and the future stuff, Dave, is just to put it on our radar. You know, Mother Nature may throw us a cruel curve, or we may get 1 or 2 years extra out of something. But just to keep it on our radar.
Okay.
Someone as a pro member or not yet?
Go ahead if you have a comment on this.
Just on the tennis courts, I like the idea of patching the small cracks in the playing field. That's appropriate because we just did that major rework like 3 years ago. But what surprises me is the center crack. If we leave that out, it's substantial. It's 1.5 inches wide right now. I don't know if you all recall, I had proposed how to repair it, but Ron had a different plan, and you guys saw Ron's plan. I didn't believe it would work, and it hasn't failed. So my comment is, if we don't treat it now, I think it's just like a road. The water's going to get in there and freeze and make it worse really fast. So I would think with this year's or 2025 program to fix the field crack, at least seal that center crack with something. You know, I don't know, polysulfide or even tar, like a road, anything to keep the water out so it minimizes the freezing. Just to consider that. And if you need to do a major repair the next year, then fine. I wouldn't leave it open.
Oh, if
Jeff, can you check into that? I don't, or have you?
No, I'd be happy to do that. I did walk it with the 2 contractors and our engineer. The center seam has cracked again, but it's nowhere like it used to be. Until we do certain things, I think we have 1 of 2 options. I'm not picking one now. I'm just saying there are options. One would be to take the center tennis court fence down, bring in a milling machine, mill over that crack, and then put pavement down before we do the color coating again to help minimize that. See, we have 2 different tennis courts. One's older, the one closest to the cell towers, and then the other one. So with heat and cold, because the seam is there, it just moves. The other thing that Ron had recommended is that we put in, I forget the terminology he used, but it would be like a raised seal joint, something other than tar through there to actually cut down both sides, remove that material, and have that center raised above the other 2 tennis courts.
Yeah, I think the term he uses raised expansion joint.
Right, that's it.
But this is more for the future. I think right, for when we talked about something that happens in 2029. What is there have you considered anything that needs to be done based on what Paul's saying for 2025 or?
Just going by what Ron is saying and the other contractor, they wouldn't mess with it next year. It's just something to keep an eye on. One of the contractors did say, you know, if we crack seal it, if we put color coating on it, they can't guarantee the crack won't reappear later that year or the following year. So they won't warranty that center seam crack if we have them do it.
Thanks.
Do you guys have a picture of it? I just sent David a picture of it. I don't know if you can play it or not.
see if I got it. I don't think I can actually through my thing.
Do you want to send it to Jeff?
Yeah, the center seam. I mean, yeah, I mean, you mean the photo of the center seam? I mean, we're not, it's not part of the discussion now. I mean, we trust you that there's a problem with the seam and you'll address it. I don't know if any of us are structural engineers that we could look at that and say.
No, but just to let Paul know, I haven't made this decision on my own. I did have our engineer look at it as well and both contractors.
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely worth considering for sure. All right.
Excuse me. Are we gonna be doing our list at this time, or was I supposed to do it at our previous time?
Let's see. Let's see if we have, let me see if I can open up your list. I haven't have it part of the meeting book yet. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's this one right here. So we have a few items here from the pro group. Do you want to run through it yourself? Okay.
I'm gonna sit this time. So the first one we already talked about, it's the mounted You Are Here map. We want to put it like right at that Y when you're going into where the walking trail, the actual like hard walking trail is. We want to put it right there where all the trails meet. Trail signs for crossing to match with, you know, what we have in Franklin. Porta potty for crossing. So there has been some chatter, as we all know. But we do think that it is important to reach out and see what the community thinks, because as of the November 23 meeting, Dave had said to come back to it in 2024. And you had just been saying that you like to revisit. So we would love to revisit the porta potty issue. Next is farmland signs. I already told you about that. Bob is going to be here to talk about the sign language sign next meeting, so I don't want to give out too much because he'll get upset.
So the farmland signs, that just to back up, the farmland signs are that's the preservation signs.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The lower and the kiosk at Fairfax, but the kiosk at the lower lot is something we would love to do as well, where the soccer field is.
The east lot. Is that the east lot? Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go across the meadow to get to it. Yeah, so that'd be really cool to have a kiosk down there because there's nothing down there to really show you what's going on.
Okay. Well, the good news about all of these is that they're none of them are high cost items except for potentially the porta potty issue, but everything else is, we are already aware of those projects. So I think most of these we can focus either, you know, Boy Scout projects, whatever. I think the only thing we might want to talk about when we're further down the line with the planning is when you want to do the You Are Here map. That's the only that'll be freestanding. All of our others are kind of tucked in the woods, so we want to make sure that we do that one right. But I don't know if there's any.
No, I just would expect this. I mean, these are just like your, and I take the point. We just kind of threw this at you, right? So you have a very short time to put together. So I agree with you, Dave. These seem reasonable. And as you work them up, just bring them one at a time. We can work our way through. Most of them, like like you said, we already talked about the trail, the signs, right? So that's in progress. The kiosk that for Paul's already in the process of building, so that one's pretty much done.
On the bench, she's asking for one with the lower lot.
Oh, yeah, but she has the Van Shire down here too. Okay, so I mean, there's a couple. So I think I think just bring them to us as they come, excluding the ones we've already talked about.
Do we have your permission to put a survey out on Facebook to see if anyone is interested in the porta potty, any of the sporting teams, any of that?
So, okay, so how do you want to handle this? Because I have an opinion, but I'm one of five.
Well, give your opinion.
Okay, so as one of five, so you've already done this, right? So this has already been done without even bringing it to the board ahead of time. And so I think, and when we're going to talk about the ordinance for the pro in a few minutes, I just want to remind the pro, you're an advisory committee. And if you're going to put out something on behalf of the pro, and that's the way I read it on Facebook, then it should have the board should have known about it. You should have passed it by us. So I am not in favor of this. When we do our budget, you're gonna see there is no money. We don't even have enough money for MS4. I, as one of five, and I'm only one of five, would not support this, and I don't think we should be putting out, asking for people's, do they want it, when I don't believe is that we can even afford to do this. We just, you come to the meeting in November to see the limited amount of money we have. It's pretty eye-opening. And it's not anybody's fault. We have an unfunded mandate with MS4 that will cost us close to $1.52 million over 5 years. We have a budget of $2 million for everything. And trying to come up with that kind of money is not going to be easy for us. And we continue as a board to challenge to how to do that. In addition, emergency services, which are important to everybody. We got to have ambulances. We have to have fire trucks. Their prices are going up. We had one bill went up 45%. And we have to pay it, and we want to pay it. But that we're getting those kind of increases where we're not getting the increases in wages, which would then mean our EAT would get higher. So we literally do not have this money. So I just want to put that out there. And once again, I'm one of five, and we'll have a better discussion of the budget in November. And you guys, everyone's welcome to that discussion. All right, that was my opinion. It's just one.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine is a little different. The problem is, as an official body of the township, right? It's when you say, hey, are you guys interested in us doing this? And then, first of all, Facebook isn't a scientific survey. It's people in Facebook, answering a response. But as a representative of the township, and you say, hey, everybody, wouldn't this be great? Would you like us to do that? And then they say, yes, we should all do that. And then you come up to us, knowing that we probably are going to have a hard time supporting it. We're going to say, we're sorry, we're not going to do it. And then you're going to say, well, but the people are demanding it. And it's like, well, you did a Facebook survey. So as an official body, I don't know if that's appropriate, like, particularly since we're going to have a hard time passing it, or we're not sure if we can. I should put it that way, right? Because we're not talking about supporting the porta potties thing. We're not really sure we're even in a position to do it because we are currently in a budget crisis, right? My problem with doing it without the board, without notifying the board, is, we get one, we should know what's happening before it happens in this township, right? And so to say, hey, we all got together, decided to do this, and so we did it, and we decided not to tell anybody, and so it is what it is. And so I think the problem is that was my issue, was like, well, a phone call would have been nice. So whether I can't say yes or no, that as a private citizen go on Facebook and say, hey, you're allowed, we can't stop you from doing that. I just think that you have to think about what is appropriate and what message are you sending out, right? Because as you guys are all appointed by us, right? You didn't appoint each other. You don't get applications and decide who gets to be a pro member. They're appointed by the board, and they should at least somewhat reflect the will of the board, right? You're an extension of us, right? And so if you go put out there, hey, we're with you, we want you to do this, and the board says we can't even afford to do this. It's like, well, see, the pros on the people's side, the board's not for you. Right. And I think it makes a very dysfunctional organization, right? And that's my overall problem with that.
Does anyone else have something to say?
I'll just say, I think it was well said, by Dave and Donna. We will have a chance to talk about these later as well. It was a surprise to every one of us on the board that was out there, and every one of us got calls the next day in the morning. So it should have just been, we should have had a chance to say.
I want to say, Dawn Dallin wants to say that I completely agree with Donna and Dave and Jim.
You're so close.
We missed the last part of that, Don.
Words.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I guess again, not to belabor this point, because it's what's done is done, is you just have to remember who you are. You're not, I mean, you're private citizens, but you're also representing Franklin Township, the government of Franklin Township, right? You're an extension of the five of us, right? So if you guys go off on your own and all of a sudden we're fielding, there's stuff on Facebook and when are these and you're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Let's go to Facebook. It makes us look bad. That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say, I totally understand that Andrea didn't think she was gonna, she just thought it was a great idea. Oh, we'll see if people are interested. I get that, but it's putting the cart before the horse. I mean, it needed to come to us first. So.
I think that's all five of us.
All right, am I allowed to speak or should I wait?
No, go ahead. I think we're at the end of this.
Okay, I understand completely that we are appointed, clearly, I understand. However, you're elected. So you're for the people too, so I don't understand why we're fighting against each other.
I don't
We're
think
all on the same side.
I don't think we are. I think we're just having a conversation about what's appropriate and not appropriate. Right. And so you can either hear us or not. Like it's not really a combat. This is how you should behave appropriately when you're an extension of the board. It's not, we're all on the same side. So you guys get to do whatever you want when you want it. Right.
That was never the intention. The intention of Andrea, she got excited.
I understand. I understand that. And that's what I'm saying is that we understand it. It's in the past. What's done is done. We have to move forward and understand and think about things before we do, before we make those decisions, right?
I speak up as a pro member that I don't think there was any malicious intent to.
None of us do.
To pit the people against you or something.
But that doesn't mean it wouldn't happen.
Right. So we understand. We won't do that. But when we had our last pro meeting, Dave attended and he said, I don't support the porta potty thing. But I think the idea was there's great demand for it, but it's hard to get people to show up to your meeting to support a porta potty. Like they're not.
You say there's great demand, but I don't we haven't received any phone calls.
Trying to give you this was a logical data set, try to just an easy way to get people to show their support for it. And if the survey had no respondents or negative, then we would say one thing. But my suggestion is to go out there on a cold November morning when they're doing pickleball, and the people who were out there could really use a porta potty.
Look, I'm not necessarily
gentle with the age group thing. But
no, I understand. So let me reset the table. I'm not I'm not fully against having porta potties there. I have concerns about them, and I think we should be able to talk about it. The focus isn't the porta potties. The porta potties and coming and bringing it in front of the board, having those discussions, that wasn't the problem, right? That wasn't the issue. It was why, I'm getting emails. Did you know about that? I'm I don't even have Facebook. What are we talking about?
We were just trying to.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just my point is,
That gauge public opinion, and I think she said, what if I gauge public opinion? I thought it was right, and said yes, but I'm not positive. I don't remember. I was actually not paying attention to that, but she said, I want to gauge public opinion. And she's like, if I ask around, I thought I'd interpret that as she was going to physically ask somebody, but I think she took it and misinterpreted it and thought that meant that age group to ask on Facebook. I think it would not happen again, and I definitely think she's, and she made it in honor. She did not even want anybody to know with her, but I think the lesson has been learned.
And I don't think it right. It is what it is. It's the point. It's just we don't. you know, and I talked to Andrea about this when she became chair, you know, a couple years ago, and I said, hey, look, one thing I need from the pros, no more surprises. No surprises. Like, I don't want to be surprised. And you know, because again, I was just looking through the ordinance, and this was the first thing we did when I got on the board was create the pro, right? And I don't want to see this pro fail. I don't think you are. I think there's bumps in the road, and we'll work through them, right? And we have to have these conversations, or things won't get better, right? And when mistakes get made, or and this happens, mistakes get made on both sides, right? But we have to talk about it. We have to work on it.
Can I ask a process question? So Dave and Dawn, but come to your meetings, right? So I guess I would have expected there to be a conversation at the pro meeting to set, but Dave, you were there.
No, I think what set this,
That asking, we thought.
So-
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't.
So
I
I
don't
would have
remember.
expected,
Yeah.
so then how, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I guess I am. How do you, if you didn't talk about it at a pro meeting with your members, how did you come up with a statement in Facebook that says the pro would like?
That, I mean, my impression was Andrea.
Just took it to, okay, all right, so.
I see. Okay.
Like, see Facebook this week, my husband had surgery, there was no collusion, I think Andrea was just excited.
Okay,
Got it.
No collusion.
because from a process, okay, so you were surprised. So from a process perspective, I would have expected there to be a conversation at a pro meeting.
Did you even know it was Andrea?
Okay.
It was an anonymous post.
Okay,
It's-
okay.
That Andrea, I was
No,
supposed to present it to Andrea.
She sent me a question about.
Okay, I didn't know.
So-
I didn't know.
Yeah, I guess I would have expected there to be a conversation at a pro meeting
I think it was.
together.
Trying to get
Just-
ready for this meeting. We're trying to be quick about, let's be prepared because winter's here. We want to get ready. I think the bathrooms are going to be shut down soon. So we're trying to get data for you.
Yeah.
Not
So-
just get data.
And I think she said, I'll ask around, and I heard ask, but I think, like, a certain age, ask around is Facebook.
Whatever.
I mean, that's my interpretation,
Well,
that's
we
an interpretation.
learned our lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and it is what it is. Like, I was taken aback by it, and it's fine. Like, it's fine. Like, these things happen, and I don't know how to sum up the conversation, but you know, if you want to officially propose it again, we can talk about it next month. My concern is, again, we have to really talk about this in terms of how much it's going to cost versus what we have to spend, because it really is, like, we're not exaggerating. Like, we're going to zero pretty quick.
Do you want to know cost or not right now?
Let's talk about it next month.
Gotcha.
Something that's beyond that, and if people are interested, they should come to the program.
Yes, 100%. And I would also, you know, again, because we've made it pretty clear, we have some serious budget problems, right? This MS4 thing is real, and
It's not going on.
it's not going away. And we,
The pro's gonna get creative, so we'll try to.
How about we get something to donate?
that would be a good conversation to have.
Bring it.
Yeah. So, and again, my point here is the porta potties, I'm not a hard no. I don't know how anyone else feels, and it's a new board. We have new board members, so it's worthy of talking about. So 100%, my issue is not that we're talking about this again. So 100%. And then, like, if we, you know, one thing to think about, not to keep belaboring, is if the pickleball people want to have a porta potty fund, that might be something to talk about, right?
Like football and the young children, because I mean, it's one thing for the boys playing flag football to go pee in the woods or something, but when they're girls or when they're 15 years old peeing in the woods, you actually get arrested. Like, this isn't appropriate. So when my daughter was playing pickleball on Saturday morning and we had to leave early because she had to go, it just ruins the day. Right? She's 15 years old. She's not gonna go pee in the woods.
All right, when it comes to the porta potty, obviously finances are gonna be an issue. Donating is an option, GoFundMe is an option. So I guess we will just figure it all out at Pro next month and we'll come to you from there.
Curious, what is the cost? Like, how much?
Well, I talked to London Britton's supervisor. They have two. They have a handicap and a regular one, and it's $2.99 a month. But that's for both, yeah, for two of them. Yeah. 4 or 5, I forget how many.
So I don't want to be a downer. I think you guys called me that before, kind of Donna Downer. But there are issues beyond just the cost too. So, but that's all part of the conversation that we can have.
All right.
Mary, you're good? So, okay.
No, can I get a clarification on the sign, trail signs? I'm a little confused. Do you want the pro to be responsible for installing them or Matt responsible? If you already tasked him with it, then we'll step away.
What trail, you the trail markers, you
Trail
mean?
marker.
At Crossing Park?
I think that was, if that's undecided, because we were considering if there's like another, if we can tack it on to another Eagle Scout project.
Yeah.
It's that in and of itself isn't a big enough project for an Eagle Scout project, but if I mean, we've got kiosks and all kinds of stuff, so. Yeah. So we can do that if we find another Eagle Scout, but I think we want to see if we can get an Eagle Scout.
Okay,
We have 2 in the wings, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
thanks.
All right. So the next stop was the Park and Rec and Open Space Board Ordinance discussion. So yeah, I have this in front of me. And it was back in the day signed by Nancy and Mary and Donna and John and myself back in 2020. Long time ago, it seems like now. And so when we wrote this, I don't know if we got everything right, but I think it was pretty good at the beginning. I don't know if we want to go line by line, but there were a couple of things that I wanted to point out that we probably want to talk about. The first one, and the one I think the reason that we brought this up was, and I forget which one of us brought it up, was the possibility of opening this pro board membership to people who live outside of Franklin Township, particularly those who perhaps border Franklin Township.
Contiguous.
Right. And so the thought here was there's a number of folks who live, particularly around Crossan Park, who use the park, who participate in trail days, et cetera, et cetera. That might be good future appointees. There are people who do trail maintenance that aren't members of the township. For example, Matt Thompson, who knows if he ever wants to be on the pro, but he's an example of somebody who does a tremendous amount of work. He's raising thousands of dollars to get stuff done. That's a pretty active person, right? He's always there. So there's examples of folks that, hey, these are good people that might be good pro members. And right now, the way the ordinance is written, and I can't find it, is 7 resident. That's right, it is. So it's in establishment. The last sentence is the board shall be composed of 7 residents of this township. And I guess the question to us is, do we want to change this to broaden membership to those who are outside of the township? And if we do, what kind of guardrails should we put around that wording? I don't believe, Guy, there's any restrictions to who we could have on a board, if there is or not, because that might make our conversation very short.
Well, maybe we should call it a committee as opposed to a board. I don't know if we have to start. Does your answer, do you care whether the pros a board or a committee? Does that impact your answer?
No.
Okay.
But I'll address both. Generally, boards, and I shared this with some folks in another township recently. Generally, boards sort of connote a legislative authority. And commission carries the same sort of innuendo, so to speak, that they have the power to do things. Committees are generally advisory. Now, your ordinance, which is in the packet, makes the advisory role clear. So in a decision tree of things that would concern me, that would not be a particular concern. But if you wanted to, since I joined this township, I always referred to it as the pro committee. I didn't know. So maybe that's more of a descriptive word, is if you're going to open the statute up or the ordinance up. Secondly, the law there's no Commonwealth statute that requires a committee like this to be township residents. Would you want to make sure you had a majority of the 7 township residents? I'm not suggesting that the other folks wouldn't be conscientious and collaborative. I did note, just when I was reading this, when Ms. Hollis got it to me, E, under appointment in terms of office, does sort of envision different geographical sections within the township, which leads me to believe that whoever considered this wanted to make sure they got a broad view of folks who may live next to your preserves or parks or open space, which I think is unparalleled from my travels from Westchester here, unparalleled. So you can do it. You might want to consider making sure that the committee is composed of a majority of Franklin Township residents. That's just a suggestion, not an imperative, but that might make some sense. But you could do it if you wish.
Yeah, I think just to throw out a number, a suggestion would be no more than 2, and it would not be required. It would just be that when time comes up for a new member, so someone's term expires and we're looking to replace or to consider what happens next, they would just be part of the pool. So there'd be we could write in such a way that you don't have to have 2, but it would be that there would be no more than 2 could be considered from a I don't know, write the word either, but contiguous township or what adjacent, whatever. You can give us whatever contiguous. But it wouldn't be that it's forced. It would just be that you have that option to, if someone from those contiguous areas puts their name in the hat, they would be part of the pool that we would look at. So, but I agree. You definitely don't want it to be a majority. I would think 2 might be a reasonable number, but I think that's something for the board to discuss.
So I think we might have put the cart before the horse here. We haven't decided whether or not we want to open this up to residents yet.
To non-residents.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
right. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, but if we, I guess I'm saying if we would, I would, based on what God said, not have it be a free for all.
Yeah. So the thing that I just jotted down was if we had decided that a non-township resident is to be on the board shall be composed of a majority of township residents.
Yeah, I was going to get more prescriptive and say no more than
2.
non. Yeah,
I personally like the majority. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I mean, this way it's simpler, right? You don't have to manage to two. I know you.
Well, we may have 0.
Yeah, we may have 0, but as long as it's a majority, I think we should be fine.
I'm not stuck with it. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking if there were 7, that had to be the majority and somebody drops out. Sorry. I was just imagining if someone drops out of the board and there's 3 non-members and 3 are residents and 3 residents, then obviously you'd have to, the new person would
We'd
have
have to
to
replace
be.
them with a township resident.
Right.
Okay, that could be done.
Yeah.
Dawn, are you with it? Dawn, are you still here? I don't know. Do you have, Dawn, did we lose you? Did we lose her? Okay.
Yeah, we lost her.
Lost their microphone.
So, we have almost all of the pro members here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you have thoughts on your composition?
So I think as long as you have the people who are willing to give the time. I mean, I think the majority, it makes sense because I think just from the perspective from the township and for the people who elected the board of supervisors who are picking people, they don't want the board of supervisors picking all non-residents. But I think because it's strictly advisory, I personally.
And I think the point too is that if the majority, I want a majority of township residents. Because you're paying the taxes, you have the voting rights to decide how you want to move forward. Right.
Giving the courtesy to the township members, but
Yeah.
we definitely are in need of volunteers, and so any way to be creative to get more volunteers.
Yeah.
I have an issue. I'm sorry, was someone going? Okay. I have an issue with the fact that I understand we're advised. I can't even say the word, but advisory.
Advisory.
Okay. I get that, but I don't think anyone should have any say in any of our business if they're not taxpayers. Like, I get it, Matt does a wonderful job, right? But like, this is our money, our tax dollars, our community. And I think it should be township residents only.
So how does that fall in line with, say, people who use Crossan Park who are not members of Franklin Township? Like, for example, we're going to pay for porta potties. Should those only be open to township residents?
Is the porta potty a what's the word I'm looking for?
Advisory.
Advisory. Thank you. Is
But
the
I
porta
think
potty an advisory board?
But my point is that like the people who are going to be using those, and we're making decisions to support people outside of our township.
Mhm.
Right. And then probably the majority of the pickleball courts, whatever those people, there are people all over. So why shouldn't they have some say in?
Because it's local government and it's the township.
Hmm.
That's why.
Yeah. So my take on it is that whenever I'm over there, there's always people from not this township. So they utilize our parks all the time. If there's someone like I hate to use Matt, but if it's someone like Matt that actually puts a lot of time in, why wouldn't we want somebody like that would help? I don't understand. As long as it's a majority of township residents in the advisory board or the advisory committee, that should be fine. And we're not saying there's going to be, a prescribed 3 and a 4 resident.
Zero.
It could be 0 and we're limiting it to contiguous townships too. It's not somebody far out or like in Delaware or something like that. But there's plenty of people in Delaware that use the park. So it's just someone that's very close by, if there is one or two.
When we had people who applied to be on the board, they met with the pro, we had a discussion with those members. We obviously are not picking who is going to be appointed, but we could then discuss it with the board.
Sure.
So it wouldn't be like we were picking some friend of a friend, who just wanted to be on board. It was obviously like a process and somebody that we would.
These are not going to be unknown people,
Right.
Unless, these are people
They're a desire to volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been around local politics long enough that we see the same faces all the time. Like, it's not like people come out of the woodwork and they're banging on our doors to be
Okay.
any commission members and all.
People are coming up, so Dave, people are not coming up. I can't hear them, but I have the most wonderful volunteer in our healing garden who is the most spectacular volunteer in our park and our garden ever that nobody knows about. He is just beyond lives right over the board, townships.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
we have some
I expect-
spectacular
more.
people that will help us with our park.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's gonna be, my point of view is it's gonna be people we already know and work with in these parks. It's not like we have hundreds of people from all over southeastern Pennsylvania who are like, we want to go to a pro meeting in Franklin Township
And take over.
and take over. Yeah.
So as you know, I have the great fun to chair two boards. Well, one's a commission, one's a board. So the HARB is set up so that, which really does make important recommendations concerning the historic district for the supervisor's consideration. We are by ordinance permitted to have non-members in what are considered to be our technical positions, which is real estate and architect. The Historical Commission is confined to township residents. I am friendly with someone who for years lived in the township, lived in Kemmelsville, moved away, lived in a couple different locations, came back, retired, and moved to New Garden. And she has off and on constantly fed us information. And I used to spend some time thinking about, well, maybe I can create some kind of subcommittee that doesn't have an official position that could bring her in on the board. Because I would love to have simply as a kind of acknowledgement of her services to have offered her a position because she was making real contributions and yet was not coming to our meetings and not participating in our discussion. A lot of this was happening over email. So part of me really thinks this is a great idea. Part of me thinks that it can also be done perhaps by creating associate members who have standing, but maybe not decision-making power over the recommendations. Well, you make recommendations. You don't vote to decide that you're going to come to the board and say, we want to present this, or you discuss it. You come to an agreement. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, from my point of view, that's another way of approaching it. But frankly, with respect to the Historical Commission having a couple positions open, and we have a range membership. We don't actually have a defined membership. We can go from 5 to 9, I think. Having that opportunity, from my point of view,
Is that, I'm sorry
It's
to
not a
cut
bad
you off,
thing.
but is that written into the ordinance that you can do 5 to 9?
something
I
like
wonder if
that.
we should do the same thing.
Something like that. It offers advantages if you're in a particularly bad year for volunteers.
Well, I guess the question would be like, well, in the instance that we lose members and we don't have 7, what happens?
We just have to go to the member.
Right, we just have to appoint somebody, right? So, yeah, that's fine. I just, we haven't had that problem, I guess.
Who does that? Who appoints someone if
We do.
Okay.
We've done it.
I might not have been here. I just wanted to know.
Okay. All right, so this is an ordinance. This is going to get codified into our ordinances. So we need a motion
We need a motion.
and to reword this.
Here's my recommendation, because there are advertisement requirements.
Okay,
So I would recommend this. I should get a Word version of this ordinance. I'm sure it exists. It may even exist in my office, but I did not draft this. But I need a Word version of the ordinance. I've taken a lot of notes. I would push out a discussion draft for the board and whoever else the board wanted input from. And then once we had language that was acceptable to all or acceptable to you five, we could then advertise it, put it on the agenda and vote it up or down.
Perfect. So I think the key point here is majority of township residents, right?
Right. Contiguous. And can we also talk about changing the word board to committee? Or at least, I don't know, you put that in the draft and then we can comment on it, right? Is that?
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that because I think to Guy's point, it's pretty out. Like when we look at the ordinance, it's pretty clear the role, right? It's spelled out in the 16-112 advisory role. The board is to be an advisory and shall coordinate its activities. So we have with the HARB as a board, right? Is it the HARB as a board?
The historical commission
Is the commission.
Well,
I
they have names, but again, what they do is spelled out in the ordinance.
Yeah, so I would be against changing the name.
I have an opinion on it too. I think we should have a separation because a lot of people have come to me and they're confused because the pro says board all the time. We say board all the time. I think there's just be a separation of names. If it, I don't know why it would matter, but if there's a separation of names, there's no confusion.
What's confusing?
They're both called board, and when the pro speaks and says the board says this or the board suggests that.
Oh, they think they're talking about us.
Yes. So that's all. I mean, and I don't know why that wouldn't be agreeable to anyone.
Maybe you could say, explain that about maybe say the pro.
I agree.
Like actually put the word advisory in it for something certain.
Or just call it the pro committee.
Pro committee, pro advisor, it doesn't matter. Just separate board from committee. That's all.
I think Dawn wants to say, Dawn, you want to try? I know every time you get started, we lose you. Did you want to say something?
No, I agree. I think it should be committee because it's confusing about board and board. I do.
Oh man, we lost the.
She wanted committee.
Yeah,
We heard.
I got that.
Betsy, do you want to say something?
Okay.
Fundraiser for a microphone.
I think it's her internet. It's that Cape Cod internet. Yeah, she's down at the Cape. She's supposed to be on vacation, not here at that board meeting.
Yeah, you got that right.
You heard that one. That was clear. All right. So there's the committee conversation. The other thing, and this is going to take, I think we might need to have a conversation about this, but we have this, and I brought this up at the last pro meeting. We have 16-116 is annual budget, and it says the board at such time, this is why it's confusing. The board at such time as directed by the Board of Supervisors shall annually submit for approval to the supervisors a proposed budget for the ensuing year, setting forth all proposed expenditures and programs with sufficient justification. The Parks and Recreation Board shall not in any matter obligate the Board of Supervisors for the payment of any township funds until the same is appropriated and approved by the Board of Supervisors. So I don't think we've ever used that part of our ordinance. We've always just kind of brought up projects and we've done them. I don't think we've ever had annual submission of.
We did the first 2 years.
Yeah, and then after that we just never happened again. And so I'm not sure if we need to change it, if we just leave it in there and ignore it, or if we just change it to something, just take it out completely.
I like what Mary did. I mean, I know we should give you more time next time, but I thought it wasn't, they weren't developed, but there were ideas, right? And then we can talk about them and then you can go back and instead of spending time on 20 ideas, like come with a wish list, bring it to the board, and we can say, we like this, we like that, and then you go back and focus on maybe 4 or 5 of them as opposed. So
Just leave it in
Yeah, I
there?
would leave it that way, but I don't think we need that makes it sound like you have to have this robust
Yeah.
pages. I don't think we're looking for that. I think what you
It's not
guys
like we
did
come up
with
with a
your
road-
time.
It does say it,
But
at
what you-
such times as directed. It
Right.
doesn't say will do it. It doesn't say.
Right, so I thought that worked out pretty well, what you did.
I mean, my thought on this paragraph, having raised it, is it's part of your annual budget consideration, just like
Right.
Jeff will reach out to me and say, what's your billing rate gonna be
It's
next
going down,
year?
right?
It can go down, yeah. But I think I mean, my guess is, Jeff, you kind of canvass your boards, your commissions and say, listen, what should I put in this spreadsheet for submission to the board for consideration of next year's budget, right?
Mainly Melissa.
Okay. Yeah, so it does make some sense to keep that in there.
Perfect.
But don't make it onerous, like, just, like, it's,
Yeah, I think
don't
this
make it
is
sound like it's
perfect.
yeah.
What we
high
got is
level.
perfect because it's, not everything has to be done. It's perfect.
Okay.
So,
You're good.
yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. I was just more concerned about how this wording is but no one cares, so I'll move on. I think that's it from my perspective. And I think the only other thing was, and I don't want to put, I mean, it doesn't have to be put in here, but when projects run over, we want to have projects. If something goes over the calendar year, let's go back and talk about it again, right? So we are reminded about what we're talking about and what you guys were planning. I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about on the ordinance? Did we cover all your points?
I'm good.
You're good? All right. Betsy, everybody good? Everybody happy?
Our next favorite topic. Okay, I don't know if there's anything here to
All right.
talk about, so maybe Jeff will give us an update. So
Before we
sorry.
before we go,
Sorry.
I probably should say, so the next step is Guy will work on the wording in this document to kind of reflect the conversation we just had. And then we will come back at such time, whether it's the next couple of months, to actually codify it and vote on it.
Right, but I think we should also share with the pro, right?
Oh, yeah. We got to get this rewritten.
Right,
first.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So now,
So I think this will be short though, right, Jeff? So this is a Lexington Point wastewater treatment plant operator update. If you guys remember the last meeting we had, I suggested that we have Stan write something that would go to the other two folks that provided a bid to be an operator and have the same type of parameters as the group that we interviewed, EEMA. And it's been done. And
It's been done and we received one of the proposals back. We're waiting for the second one. And it's anticipated that AECom will have them evaluated and be ready to report at the next board meeting.
great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anything pop? Have you reviewed the first?
More expensive.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's all coming over time.
Okay. All right. So, Betsy.
The solicitor's report. Mr. Donatelli.
Thank you. There are two items, beg your pardon. There's two items on the agenda, American Tower and PennDOT, and I'll take American Tower first, and I'll probably spend a little bit more time on that than on the MS4 conversation. But we have a third amendment to communications site lease agreement that I have been negotiating with their rep. And we have a third amendment that's been presented to us. I'm going to highlight for you the important takeaways from it. I've discussed this with Ms. Ortega. We went through all of my comments and our thoughts. So I feel pretty comfortable at least endorsing the concept of executing this, but I'm not going to ask you to do that tonight because I want to make sure that my modifications are acceptable to Mr. Lovejoy, who is the representative I'm dealing with. So this is an amendment to a lease for a tower, which we've had, or you've had, since May of 1995. And so it is going to be extended for a period of renewal terms, which will get us to 2073. So we're discussing a long-term contract for this site tower. The important takeaways is that they will pay you, or pay the township, a one-time payment of $10,000 as a signing bonus, and then a monthly rent of $4,740.92 with a 4% annual multiplier, 4% annual increase. So it is a nice chunk of change for a low impact use of township property. There is a provision that only guarantees the rent through 2038. One of the questions I want to follow up with Mr. Lovejoy is, where is the what might be the terminating, the conditions that would create the lease to terminate. There are some non-compete language contained in the agreement which does not apply. And there is a limited right of first refusal for the purchase of the township property, which I'm going to need to massage, because in order to alienate a piece of township property, you have to go through a code compliant process, and that code compliant process is not called for in the agreement. You just can't sell a piece of property to whomever you want if you're a government entity. They want to keep it confidential. I have concerns with that because you're subject to the right to know law, and I don't want to sign an agreement which is contrary to that. So I have to discuss that with Mr. Lovejoy. All of the communications between the parties need to be by certified mail or hand delivery or telegraph, and it just sounds a little bit antiquated. So I'd like to put in a provision for email. The document also anticipates a memorandum that's filed with our recorder of deeds. We're going to need to make the same changes in the memorandum of lease that is in the lease provision as well, but they're or in the lease language as well. That's just making them consistent. And then they want an affidavit from the affiant, and they want you all to sign it personally. And I'm not suggesting you do that. And so I've modified it to simply have the affidavit, which is really reps and warranties. Somebody's saying everything I've said about the township, its organization, its legitimate structure, the process through which it went, to approve the documents, all compliant. But I think we can just have that signed by the township through a simple affidavit, not individually. So that was roughly it. I went through this with Ms. Ortega. I think she and I were fine with the rent, which is, I believe, a fair rental.
Can you repeat what that amount was?
Sure, it is a,
Got the 10,000 sign bonus.
yes, $4,740.92 per month. And it will go up by 4% every year. So, you know, you could do the arithmetic in your head. That's roughly $48,000 a year, roughly. You know, for 10 years, that's almost $500,000. And then it goes on for, 30 some odd years. That's a little stream of income for the township. So
I guess my question would be, you said, when did you say this was going to expire? 2078?
if we sign this, the expiration date, if all of the existing renewal terms are exercised, will be 2073.
2073. I hope so.
Not,
I mean, maybe not
I don't
here.
wanna be
Maybe
here.
not here in this
I'm
room, but I hope I'm
120.
here that long. Yes, right. I've grown into the seat. Why is that typical? Or do we want to have a shorter lease so we can come back and re-envision this? And I mean, it seems like it's a cell tower. Are cell phones going to be a thing in 50 years? You know what I mean? Like it's just why that's such a long lease? And is it really beneficial to us to have it?
More risk for them.
That's my question is how do we think about it? Where's the risk on such a long lease? And then when do we get the chance to renegotiate?
So the option is with the tenant. So the renewal period, they may decide that there is a new technology that no longer requires communications through bouncing signals off of cells. At which case, they would have the right under this agreement to terminate it. But the minimum rent, the rent guarantee would have that 10-year period irrespective of their renewal period. So you're guaranteed a $480,000 plus 10 grand payment if you renew this. I cannot tell you as a lawyer that makes commercial sense. I can tell you that the legal document holds together pretty well and protects you pretty well.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, this is not extra money for us. This money is money that we've been collecting for years. It's already as an
Yeah.
income stream.
No, I
in the
understand
budget.
that.
So,
Yeah.
just so folks know, it's
It's not found money.
Yeah, it's not new and it's not found. Maybe the $10,000. It's, I don't know if Melissa can, the numbers are about the same.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it in the budget, 55,000, but I think there's two, so I don't know how they break down, Paul.
Up or down?
Oh, I'm assuming it went up, but that's,
The rent went up, but I don't know by how much.
Melissa's
Mr.
here.
Overton.
well, I think that's Melissa, right?
Yeah, that's Melissa.
Melissa, do you want to comment?
I'm here. The volume or the voices, everybody's very lagged going back and forth. So we're with American Tower now, per year, instead of it being 56,000 a year as what Guy's proposing, the new contract, we're about 40,000 a year. So
We
we'll go,
went down? We went down?
no,
40,000 to 56.
yeah, plus the 10 for the bonus.
So say it again. What are we paying now and what are we getting now from them and what will we get in the future?
40,000 per year.
It's 40K to 56.
Oh,
Right.
What's the number they've
So,
got?
so the new amount will be around 56,000 with a
Right.
4% escalator.
I think Guy said it was 4740.
Well, it's 4,007, and I'm doing rough math, but if we're gonna take out our pencils. 4,740.92. So when I do in my mind, I multiply that by 10 and I get 47,040. There's 2 more months, 11 and 12. And so I kind of
56.
rough that out to about $9,500 and I come up with roughly 56 and change. It would be more precise if I had my calculator out, but that's how I do it.
Sounds good.
That's a help. I mean, that's another 16. I'm telling you, every dime we can find is we need it.
So we can just mention it, right? So, we are looking at $500,000 a year in MS4. So
It would be not, it would be nice if we could put a $400,000 away for over 5 years.
So when you think about how much we spent on MS4 last year, it was like 5 figures, maybe $50,000.
We spent very little for MS4 last year.
And before that, it was less than that. Next year, it's going to be $400,000. All right, we're going to be spending that next year. And so that is when we talk about what we're doing over the next 2 months is figuring out how do we do that within the current framework of our township's budget.
In the budget, there's a line that says stormwater management that's been in there for a while. Is that different than MS4?
Yeah, so I'm learning all this. There's actually 3 different lines in the budget. One is any kind of storm maintenance. So if there's a tree that falls down or there's a terrible storm, there's damage. So there's a budget item for storm maintenance, which could impact stormwater, but it's called storm maintenance. And then there's stormwater that we have just, there's drainage things that need to be fixed, and Jeff, you know all that, but it's just stuff we have to do, right? And
Which-
then you have MS4, which is how do you reduce your pollution load? And there's projects that we need to do it by a certain number. And those projects can cost millions of dollars. And then what makes it even better, we have to maintain those projects. So once you pay for them, you're still on the hook to maintain them. And then you move into the next permit and you got to start all over again, but you still have the expense for the previous. So it never gets better.
And there's no objective measure that you're doing anything for the environment. It's simply you pay an engineering firm you have to identify streams. You pay an engineering firm to do work on those streams, and the DEP puts a check mark next to our township to say we've done what we needed to do. So
This is what you're upset.
yeah, every time we bring it up, it's $400,000, and we're doing very little productive with it. And that's money that is gone. We can't do any infrastructure. We're gonna go into the preserve, Franklin Preserve, and work on a stream that we can't see because it's currently covered in shrubs. We have to remove the shrubs and the trees, work on a stream that is perfectly fine, because that is what we're being asked to do.
Is that, are you doing all the, I'm sorry, thank you for that. Are you guys doing all the renovations through an engineering firm? Because I know a lot of people in the community would be like, ooh, storm
It has to be,
renovations.
it has to be,
Okay.
it has to be, yeah, it has to be, it can't be done by volunteers. It has to be done with an official firm.
Well, yeah, but would they allow volunteers to work with them? I guess is more so my
I don't know.
question.
That's between them.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Keep us in mind, that's all.
But it's not a volunteer project type of thing. It's so point is that to Donna's point, it took me like years to figure out all these stormwater things. So when we have a stormwater discussion, it's usually coupled with our road program, because when you put in a road, repair a road, you have to do stormwater maintenance. MS4 is completely separate, has nothing to do with infrastructure. It's its own entity. So
Live near the cell towers, but is there any concern about what type of cell towers are gonna be? I mean, there's certain.
They're there.
What are they gonna change them? Like if they make them 5G, there is actually additional health concerns, like if they change the infrastructure of the cell towers, are they permitted to change what is on the cell towers? It might affect the neighbors.
I'm going to have to tell you, I don't know. My belief is that what they're called is nodes. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not familiar with the health risks. I've litigated cases where they've tried to prove health risks. They've all been unsuccessful. So
Changes, there are some additional risks with the new technology of the cell towers.
I'll take your word for it. I can't answer that question. What I'll do is I will reread this. No, honestly, I'm serious. It's a legitimate question. I'll reread this.
But if there's a health, this is important.
I'll reread this with that in mind, and I'll let Jeff know if I see anything in there that opens it up for an unregulated technology, which sometime in the future might require some scrutiny.
Guy, understanding this is a 10-year minimum, that if we sign this thing, right? We lock in that revenue for 10 years.
Right.
Minimum. Is there an out clause for us, the township? Is there anything that we can get out of the contract?
Not that I see.
Okay.
Not that I see. It's a lease that will be recorded, so it will be almost like a sale of a piece of real estate.
And and I think those cell towers have been there for quite a while now. I don't think there hasn't been any issues. They've been good tenants. They're paying their rent on time. And yeah.
I just worry about
Well,
70 years from now. I don't know what.
that was kind of my comment. Like, does it make sense to do a 10, is it, what's the term expected and reasonable? I forget what the term is, expected and reasonable, or
Yeah.
for a contract like this. But all right, where were we?
So Guy, then you get to talk about MS4.
That's right.
Because we have two MS4 projects, not just.
Yeah, there's two.
So this is the easier one, right?
This is the easier one. This is the 5-figure one in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And last month, we sort of pushed it because, and I just want to make sure I pull my most recent email up on this because it's fairly recent. So you will recall a discussion last week or last month where we confirmed that the amount of the weight, the pounds, were 13,300, and I'm just reading, that's why I'm looking down here. $13,321 at $1.95 a pound, for a total of $25,975.95. That is the number that we baked into the contribution agreement with PennDOT. And it's from up until last month, that was the only number that we ever discussed. At some point, there was discussion about the need for only 10,384 pounds at $1.95 for a total cost of $20,248.80. That found its way back to PennDOT, and I got a call, or at least I got an email from the Office of General Counsel, who asked me to do two things, and I'm going to read it to you. And it's in the pack. The email's in the packet. Please attach and label Exhibit A. So what does that mean? The resolution which you passed, the second resolution that you passed, references an Exhibit A. Exhibit A is the executed contribution agreement. When I sent it up to Harrisburg, I didn't put Exhibit A on that document. So I fixed that, right? That was easy. This attorney then says, also because fixes were made to the monetary amounts, obtain written acceptance from the township of the changes. An email is fine. The agreement does not need to be re-signed. That's good news. So I reached out for Ron, who has been working with us on this, and I said, "Hey, what do you think? Do I get authority to send an email that says we only want the lower number?" And Ron's recollection of the discussion was that we sort of wanted to preserve that additional poundage in the event of an unforeseen event.
Because we don't know. We don't know what DEP is going to approve.
Right. So yesterday, what's today? Wednesday. Yesterday, I heard from John Kasitz of RES. He asked me a question about what that difference in poundage meant. What are we going to do? So I wrote him this email, and I sent him this email today to 222. I said, I was trying to figure out what Mr. St. Clair meant by the highlighted portion below, meaning the other number. Franklin wishes to maintain the 13,321 pounds at $1.95 a pound for $25.9 and change to account for any unforeseen events that may arise. Make sense, Guy? That was my email to him. I would like to respond to Mr. St. Clair. This, as I discussed it with my board tonight, what they really would like to do is keep that number, the higher number. And in the event it comes in lower, mazel tov. If it doesn't,
Because it's credit for the next.
there you go. So, and it was a it was, you know, we're talking about a monetary figure that's that's sort of manageable. And, you know, we're not going to commit, we don't have to commit under the contribution agreement to anything greater than that. We've budgeted for that. We know what that number is. So I feel comfortable answering the question that way. And if the board gives me that okay, tomorrow when I get into the office, tomorrow at some point, I'll send an email out that says, here's the document with the word A put on it. And, you know, this is the email that will confirm the board is happy to go with the lower amount, but wants to keep the higher amount in the event that there's unforeseen circumstances. And I don't know what else we can do at that point.
Yeah, good with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Just so folks know, the $1.95 a pound is probably the cheapest we're ever going to see. So if the worst case is we bank it, we're still in good shape.
Yeah,
It's cheap.
I've never seen.
Cheaper, nothing's cheap, right? But
Well,
it's really more
it's the
reasonable.
best deal we're gonna get in this MS4 kerfuffle.
You've been kind.
I'm looking for new words to use, Donna, that I can, yeah.
He has stronger words than that.
It's like chicken breast get cost up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, good job.
All right. So, do we have anything else? I think that's it. Guy, you've concluded your report.
You know what? I'll raise one other issue.
Sure.
It's not on the agenda, but I've discussed it with your staff and they're aware it's out there.
Mhm.
So we did receive a review letter from the Chester County Planning Commission on the solar ordinance. It was 4 pages long. So my thought, and I think your staff agrees, and I'm not looking for permission to do this. I'm more sort of suggesting this is what I'm going to do. But I think we should send it back to the Planning Commission and say, hey, take a look at this. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All
I
right.
agree.
That's it. Thank you.
I thought we were done with that a long time ago. It's just like won't go away.
Did you read the comments? Are they crazy or just like hard? Is it like put the A on the 3rd page or is it?
They're not crazy. And I have it here. They wanted us to add different definitions or concentrate on the definitional section because in one instance they were inconsistent. That's an
good.
important point. They wanted us to reconsider allowing a principal use solar energy system as principal uses in zoning districts. So I think they want us to reevaluate exactly where these photovoltaic structures are going to go. They wonder whether the best location for these structures are on prime agricultural soils, because you will recall that a substantial portion of our township is in AR, and they're wondering whether that's inconsistent with preservation of soils, which I know is important to your constituents. They recommend perhaps specifically considering the LI and C districts as more appropriate locations for these facilities. They want us to consider, this is a word I hadn't seen before, agrivoltaic systems. I don't know what they are. The Planning Commission can look into that. They wonder whether the conditional use to get relief from the ordinance should be with the board and consider and ask us to consider it being the ZHB. Again, that's an easy enough change. So sort of things they thought our decommissioning provisions were perhaps too robust.
So that's like the biggest liability for the township is that decommissioning.
Yeah.
Right. It's not putting the solar when the solar panel arrays are up and running and everything's going good, it's fine. Usually it's fine. It's when they don't go good and you have to get rid of all this toxic material. So that's why it was so robust. We were trying to protect ourselves. So I don't know. Maybe there's better ways to trim it down and still make it reasonable, protect the township. But you know, couldn't come up with something.
So this is advisory, of course. They do commend you for considering zoning regulations that can encourage the use of renewable energy systems.
So Guy, just a heads up. I mean, we that thing went around in circles for a long time. Jeff, I don't envy you this, but when you give it back to them, they can't blow it up. They gotta try to focus on the comments. And I know they'll probably blow it up anyways, but, do you still, yeah, Jim, just try to keep them in they'll tear it apart. Just try to keep them
Keep it simple.
corralled.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And I don't know, it sounds like they went into some specific types of, green energy production. And this has been a couple of years now when I was working on it with the planning commission. We try to keep the wording very vague because we acknowledge that this technology changes super fast. So if we're talking about like voltaic kind, this specific technology, it may not even exist in 5 years. So we were trying to keep it vague and encourage people to come and talk to a zoning hearing board or us and say, your ordinance talks about, this kind of solar panel. Those don't exist anymore. I want to do this. How do I get a waiver? So I don't know. But anyway, have fun. Enjoy it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Guy, for bringing that up. Now we come to our second public comment section. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do we have any public comment?
Yeah, my name's Sean Arbrock. I'm a Franklin Township resident for 45 years. Just a few comments on the American Tower thing and the anonymity that they're requesting. I don't think the township can do that because it shows up as a line item in the budget.
Yeah.
So those incomes will be in the budget. So besides the RTK, it's the budget will be done pretty soon and issued to the public so everyone can see it. So
Not to mention the discussion here in public tonight.
yeah, right. All right. Okay, that was the comment on that. Just going back through the meeting here, a couple of notes about a snow clearing history. Just listen to Jeff talking about it. Just a point in history that one year, I think it was 2013, we spent $59,000 on one storm. Fortunately, the state of Pennsylvania declared an emergency and we got 75% of it back. But weather has a longer term cycle that allows us to think that light materials and winters are norm, but it's possible you can get some pretty strong storms, and the amount that you keep in the budget is what we have done traditionally. And if you overspend it before you get into your road program, and unfortunately the road program suffers capitally. Related to park, the normal infrastructure maintenance at the park are entirely appropriate. Assault by weather and sun are relentless. They're very strong natural forces. So any of those asphalts with all those solvents in them just don't last long. So I've seen stuff come apart that's looked pretty new and next year it comes apart. So it's just important that the board be cognizant of the continuing maintenance for these facilities. There was a little discussion about these farmland signs by that the pros proposing. It should be by approval of the owner. I'm not sure any owner would really approve the sign because it's a major security issue. One of the major securities you have here around this township related to open land and farmland is your basic anonymity that people can't see, then you're more secure. So you put a sign on it, you're really flagging yourself that you've got something out. I'm not sure that the farmers that preserve the land would really allow it, but if they did, the sign should, I saw a proposal and it said something about cooperation by Franklin and Chester County. It should be funding, not cooperation. So if you put the sign up there, funding should be acknowledged. Related to the unauthorized survey, I think the board's response was excellent. I fully agree. So Just a few words on surveys is that surveys are problematic. If you look at the comp plan survey, you only got 515 responses. And it wasn't limited to just Franklin Township residents. It was wide open online. So that's not a particularly big response. Then when you even get down into the surveys, on individual items, the discrete responses were a smaller percentage, it is 515. So you don't get a very strong public response with these surveys. And you have to keep in mind that there are 3,500 registered voters in the township and 4,500 people. So not sure surveys really are effective on something like that. And you'd be getting people participating in a survey that don't have a stake in it. They're not paying Franklin Township taxes. Related to the pro and non-residents, I oppose it. I think you should limit it to residents. There's nothing wrong with having the volunteers that you have in there are effective, using them as volunteers, assisting it. They can actually act. But I think it conveys an impropriety that you have people on the board who are potentially recommended expending of township funds, taxpayer funds, who are not in the township. So I think there's a propriety issue in my mind for it. Just looking at the naming of the board versus a committee, I think it does create a confusion, but in effect, it doesn't change anything because the ordinance actually sets them up to function as a committee. So it's just a matter of wording. And if you're uncomfortable with it, I would support changing it, but I'm not sure it's a big deal. The board does convey an authority that doesn't exist. So the pro functions as a committee. Just last comment here on the budget, just related to current and future budget limits discretionary spending. Essentially, discretionary spending will be eliminated by the lack of funds we have right now, from what I'm hearing. Let's see, was there anything else? No, I think that's really it. It's a good meeting, short meeting.
Hey, John.
The comment on the length of the reports and updates was brief tonight, which is a problem I had before, where the committee reports got so long and essentially used up the board's energy early in the meeting. And then when they got to the real township business, they were all kind of wrought out. So I've made some suggestions of how you might change that, but that's up to you. Okay, Jim, I got a question.
Just a quick question. Would you mind explaining what the risk is on the farm preservation signs? I don't know if I understand it.
Security is the fact that people don't see what you have and know what you have. That's the biggest part of your security, is they can't see it. So when you put a sign up there, now you're identifying it as a piece of property that's been possibly funded by public, although it does say private. That doesn't keep them out.
You're thinking hikers will show up and walk around.
I'll just call them looky-loos. When I first moved into the township, we've got a fairly large piece of property. Our driveways were open. We had no problem. We got into the mid 80s and the 90s. We started getting people coming up our driveway with no plausible explanation why they're there. They're just looking around. You'd ask them what they're doing and they couldn't tell you why they were there. Sometimes you have somebody come up there at night, turn around in a driveway, 1,000 feet off the road. So we put up a gate. So it's a security issue.
Well, the order of operation is going to be, we would go to the township, the resident, and say, hey, we got this. We want to honor this, and if you are uncomfortable, we won't do it.
Oh, that's absolutely right. If the property owner is okay with it, I wouldn't. Yeah, go ahead with it. But there is a security issue there when you identify something like that. So, no further comments. Thank you. Good meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? Oh, hold that by the base. That thing pops out.
No, should you decide that with respect to the probe, that you are going to change the ordinance so that non-residents may serve as a member of the group, I would like to ask you to consider doing the same thing for the Historical Commission. And there perhaps some wording like non-residents with a demonstrated interest in Franklin Township history may be appointed to the commission, but may not constitute a majority of it, something like that. But I'm, specifically thinking of one person, I would have loved to been able to offer her a place on the Historical Commission. She deserved it, given the contribution she was making to our knowledge of the township's history.
Is she's still doing it? Like, would it help for us to look at next?
There were changes in her life. She has moved to different living situation because she wanted to partly. And so our communications back and forth, which are often taking place a lot, but not entirely by email. I would also see her at the talks that we co-sponsor in New London. So I was not able to be in New London last September. So there's a pretty good chance I'll be seeing her this coming month. It's the kind of topic that would bring her out. But yeah, as far as I know, everything is fine. But she lost her husband and downsized. So.
All right. Any other public comments before we adjourn? All right. So I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:03 p.m. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes 4-0. Good night, everybody.
All right.